For the first time in more than 50 years, a majority of American cities are growing faster than the suburbs. But that certainly doesn't mean the end to suburbs. A majority of Americans live in suburbs, and I think in the future a majority of Americans will continue to live in the suburbs. But the suburbs are changing, and they're going to have to change because the world is changing, particularly demographics, technology, market trends, consumer attitudes, all are reshaping our landscape as we know it. I think that the suburbs that have the best chance going forward are first-ring suburbs, transit-served suburbs, and suburbs that embrace a new paradigm for development that includes a suburban town center, perhaps, and is also open to housing choice and diversity. Those that simply say we want to just keep large lot subdivisions and we want to have exclusionary zoning are going to be probably less successful in the future. You know, it's interesting, we had a model for development in America for about 300 years, and we called it a town. And towns always came with a couple of things. First, they had an edge and a center. You knew where the town sort of began and the countryside ended, and they were walkable and pedestrian friendly. They were architecturally coherent and interesting. They had a mix of uses and housing types. I mean, you had stores close to homes, close to schools, churches, civic buildings, etc. You had a real sense of place, meaning that your community was different from my community, and you had a pretty nice sense of community. And then we kind of forgot all of that at about 1950, and we came up with this new model for development we called sprawl. And it started off with a lot of promise, but we segregated all of the uses, and so now everybody had to drive everywhere for everything. It was architecturally chaotic and not particularly attractive, particularly in the commercial areas, and it was no sense of place, meaning that every place came to look just like every place else. James Howard Kunstler called that the geography of nowhere. So a successful suburb in many ways is going to re-embrace what was our model for development for 300 years. They understand that a town and the framework that it provided is not just a charming anachronism. It's actually one of the models we could use to grow in the future. The county seat for Montgomery County, Maryland, which is the big urban county outside of Washington, is Rockville, Maryland. And in 1970, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to tear down practically their entire downtown and replaced it with a 200-store mall called the Rockville Mall. And now they've torn the mall down and put the downtown back. They've leased up all the housing, which is mostly apartments and some condominiums, practically overnight, because they really didn't have a supply of housing for young couples, retirees, people living alone, that sort of thing, which we just didn't have those kind of places. The other thing is that people in suburbs tend to be really looking for are public gathering places, public space, places they can get together and see their neighbors. So even in a place like Houston, where 7 of the 15 regional malls have been torn down and repurposed and turned into walkable, mixed-use places. We're finding suburban residents are flocking to those places for shopping, for dining, for entertainment. These kind of changes aren't going to take place overnight. Communities deteriorate one building and one project at a time, and they can get better one building and one project at a time. And one of the things we've learned in the development industry is that nothing succeeds like success. And so when one suburban community, like a Carmel, Indiana, transforms itself into a more urban, walkable place, even though it's geographically in the suburbs, what we found is that the other suburbs around them see their success, economic success, social success, etc., and they start to emulate that because there's an old expression about a picture's worth 1,000 words, but in real estate, a project's worth 1,000 pictures that people can kind of kick the tires on. And it's about expanding choice for people who live in the suburbs. I believe that the suburbs that are going to be providing sort of more choices and more opportunities are going to be more successful in the future.